Let's get something straight from the beginning. This phase of your life isn't meaningless. It's not random. It has a purpose, an exact, deliberate one. That weight you've been feeling, that rising sense that something in your world is about to give way, is not imagination. It's truth. Something is indeed breaking, but not you. It's the old framework that's collapsing, the outdated structure that can no longer support the life you're meant to live next. Pressure always builds before transformation. It's the unmistakable sign that the system is preparing to evolve. And if you're hearing this now, it's because you're standing in that exact stretch, the hardest, most disorienting part of the process. The point where everything tightens right before it expands. It feels unbearable, but this is what it looks like when old limits begin to dissolve. You're not failing, you're fracturing open to something greater. Ever notice how everything seems to come undone just before it comes together? How the moment you think you're sinking is often the moment the next phase is beginning. That's not irony, it's design. When a system, whether it's your life, your body, or your mind, starts to outgrow its previous setup, it doesn't upgrade smoothly. It wobbles, it destabilizes, it shakes itself loose from what used to feel secure. Systems crave balance, but only for as long as that balance encourages growth. The moment it restricts progress, the system must reorganize, and that reorganization often looks like chaos. Your routines crumble, the people who once felt like home drift away, the plans that used to work glitch without warning. You begin to question your every choice, wondering if you somehow lost the thread. But that confusion isn't punishment, it's a signal. It's your life rejecting the outdated patterns it can no longer sustain. Just like a device freezes before an update, your energy stalls before the next expansion. You can't see it yet, but under the surface, a new structure is quietly being installed. Think about the Earth's tectonic plates shifting beneath the surface. They don't separate peacefully. They grind and resist, building unbearable friction until the planet itself shakes. That trembling isn't destruction, it's release. It's the Earth exhaling built-up energy so new land can form. The breakdowns you experience work the same way. Your mind trembles when it's done carrying old frequencies that no longer align with where you're headed. The pressure, the confusion, the emotional storms, they're evidence that your inner world is recalibrating. This phase has a name in system theory: disequilibrium. It's the in-between space where the old structure is crumbling and the new one hasn't yet settled. It's uncomfortable, volatile, and often misread as failure. But it's not failure. It's evolution in progress. Every living system passes through it before renewal. When you feel heaviness in your chest, when your emotions go quiet or erratic, it's not because you've lost your way. It's because your internal system is processing data, reviewing which parts of your identity can stay and which must dissolve. The pressure isn't proof of weakness, it's proof of capacity. Your being is filtering out outdated scripts that once kept you safe but now limit you. The exhaustion, the irritability, the short fuses, they're byproducts of inner restructuring. You're not breaking down, you're being debugged. The emotional crashes, the mental fog, the pauses, they're all code rewriting itself in real time. Old programs can't support the next level of awareness. They must fail before they can be replaced. So when you feel like you can't keep going, understand, your system is not shutting down. It's upgrading. That fatigue you mistake for failure is actually the moment when control shifts from the outdated operating system to the new one. In electronics, when a circuit short circuits just before it's repaired, there's often a small flash, a spark. That flicker isn't destruction. It's proof that energy is finally moving again. The same is true for you. Every bout of anxiety, every restless night, every tear or tension headache, it's voltage realigning. It's new energy trying to flow through old wiring. And yes, it's uncomfortable, because evolution always is. Even confusion plays its part. The questions about who you are, what you want, or where you belong are not signs of being lost. They're symptoms of expansion. Identity is widening. Awareness is updating. You are growing beyond the boundaries you once thought were permanent. Once you start viewing these moments through that lens, everything changes. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" You stop labeling your experiences as bad and start decoding them as information. Each breakdown becomes a message. The universe doesn't send random chaos. It sends updates disguised as collapses. And when you learn to read your emotions as data instead of disasters, everything softens. The constant cycle of fix, fix, fix slows into quiet observation. And in that quiet, clarity begins to form. Not because the situation has improved, but because you've stopped interpreting the pressure as punishment. You've started recognizing it as communication. That's the turning point. That's when your awareness shifts from resistance to resonance. So when things start to slip, don't scramble to hold them in place. Don't panic at the unraveling. Let your system shake. Let the old attachments fall away. What looks like instability is actually the bridge between worlds. On one side is the version of you that survived. On the other is the version ready to live. The fatigue, the emotional storms, the sudden endings. They're not coincidences. They're precise measurements of reorganization. You are rebooting. This entire phase is the loading screen before your new operating system comes online. The patterns breaking down now are clearing space for a higher level of coherence to settle in. The weight you're feeling isn't punishment, it's proof of life. It's the sign that the update has begun. The old code is deleting itself, even while your surface feels frozen. So don't interfere, let it finish. Because once it does, the peace you've been chasing won't arrive with noise or applause. It will come as silence. Deep, grounded, unmistakable silence. The kind that doesn't need reassurance, because it knows. Now, let's go deeper into why this process feels so painfully personal. Why does freedom, something we all crave, feel so terrifying when it finally starts to arrive? Why do we sabotage our own expansion even as we beg for it? The answer is simpler and more mechanical than you think. The human mind was designed first for survival, not for evolution. It prioritizes what is predictable, not what is possible. That's why the moment your life starts to shift towards something unfamiliar, your brain sounds the alarm. It doesn't care if the old pattern was suffocating. It only cares that it was consistent. Familiar pain feels safer than unknown freedom. So when you begin moving toward your next level, toward peace, purpose, or authenticity, your system resists. Not because you're lazy, but because you're wiring mistakes growth for danger. It's a paradox that every human lives through. We crave expansion, but we cling to control. We want transformation, but we fear unpredictability. And those two impulses can't coexist without friction. That's why every awakening begins with anxiety. Your nervous system fights to preserve what it already knows, even as your soul reaches for something greater. You'll see this conflict play out in small, quiet ways. Like when you wake up full of energy to start something new, only to feel drained by noon. Or when you feel inspired one moment and self-doubting the next. That back and forth isn't inconsistency. It's your inner thermostat trying to keep the temperature of your reality the same. Confusion, procrastination, even sudden tiredness. They're all clever disguises for fear. The mind will create any distraction it can to prevent you from stepping into the unknown. It's not evil, it's efficient. It's trying to protect you based on outdated programming. In systems theory, resistance is simply feedback. It's the loop testing whether it can stay stable when new input arrives. Every living system does this before adapting. Think of a thermostat. It resists change when the door opens, trying to keep the room at its set temperature. That resistance doesn't mean the system is broken. It means it's maintaining balance. Your mind works the same way. It's not trying to ruin you. It's testing how much change it can handle before the old baseline gives way. But eventually, the system runs out of energy to maintain the illusion of stability. That's when transformation begins. Not before exhaustion, but because of it. Growth starts at the precise moment the old pattern becomes too heavy to sustain. That's the threshold between control and surrender. Think of a butterfly inside its cocoon. That protective shell once served a purpose. It held space for transformation. But eventually, the same shell that sheltered begins to suffocate. The butterfly must resist from within, pushing against the boundaries that once kept it safe. The struggle isn't failure. It's the process that strengthens its wings. Without the resistance, flight would be impossible. The pressure that feels unbearable is the very thing building your capacity to rise. Human transformation works the same way. The tension between safety and freedom builds until something gives. You either contract into the familiar or expand into the unknown. Freedom always wins, eventually. Consider staying too long in a job that drains you. At first, you rationalize it. It pays the bills, it's stable, it's not that bad. But over time, a subtle heaviness starts to set in. Each morning feels heavier than the last. The irritability builds, your energy fades, your mind starts to wander. That's not laziness. That's your internal data system signaling that the identity connected to that environment is expiring. You'll stay until the pain of staying finally outweighs the fear of leaving. That's when transformation takes over. Resistance always peaks just before surrender. Just like the storm rages loudest before the skies clear, your inner resistance screams its final protest right before it dissolves. When you can observe that resistance, instead of wrestling it, you've already broken its hold. Awareness itself is liberation. The moment you see the pattern clearly, you become larger than it. And once you're larger, it can no longer rule you. Freedom doesn't begin when the world changes. It begins when your awareness expands beyond the old loop. So no, resistance isn't your enemy. It's the sign that the system is updating. It's proof that something new is emerging beneath the noise. Once you understand this, struggle stops being something to fear. It becomes something to interpret. And with that awareness, you can begin to understand the next layer, how chaos itself becomes creation. Chaos feels wild. It feels personal. It feels like the world is spinning too fast for you to stand. But chaos isn't random. It's coded information. It's how systems reorganize themselves when old patterns collapse. Every stable structure, physical, emotional, or energetic, eventually reaches a point of saturation. The moment it can't expand further, it must disintegrate. Heat builds before a storm. Pressure builds before a chemical reaction. The breakdown always precedes renewal. The same principle governs your life. When your routines lose meaning, when your goals stop inspiring you, when familiar relationships begin to fade, it's not because you're failing. It's because your system is entering a phase of constructive collapse. The old architecture is making room for a higher one. But because identity is attached to that architecture, the process feels deeply personal. Endings feel like rejection. Silence feels like punishment. Confusion feels like loss. Yet, each of these is actually a signal that reorganization has begun. When the forest burns, it looks like devastation, but it's clearing space for new growth. Your chaos works the same way. It's removing what can't grow with you. The people leaving, the paths closing, the dreams dissolving. They're not erasing your future. They're protecting it. Look closer and you'll start to notice something extraordinary beneath the noise. A pattern. The same emotions repeating in different forms. The same lessons dressed in new faces. These aren't accidents. They're your life sending feedback loops. Every time you respond differently, even once, the system adjusts. You teach it a new rhythm, and each new rhythm stabilizes into a higher pattern. That's how alignment forms, not through control, but through awareness. Eventually, the panic softens. You start seeing that behind every breakdown is a blueprint. Behind every ending is organization waiting to emerge. The chaos stops being an enemy. It becomes instruction. You begin to recognize the code. The storm isn't destroying you. It's delivering you. Slowly, your perception shifts. What used to feel like punishment now feels like precision. What looked like delay now looks like divine timing. You realize that instability isn't the opposite of balance. It's part of it. Every system swings before it settles. Every heart trembles before it opens. Every mind shakes before it expands. And that's the secret most people miss. Chaos isn't the end of order. It's how order renews itself. The noise is only temporary. Beneath it, clarity is forming. Quietly, patiently. When you stop fighting the noise and start listening, you'll hear it. A faint hum of intelligence beneath the surface. The world isn't breaking down. It's recalibrating. You're not falling apart. You're being rebuilt. And when this phase completes, when the dust finally settles, you'll look back and understand. The pressure was proof. The chaos was confirmation. The weight you carried wasn't meant to crush you. It was evidence of expansion. You weren't collapsing, you were becoming.